Hello everyone, Eric again here. Welcome to part 3 of our cheap and dirty attempt at creating fall girls. Since I recorded part 2, I actually uh, finished the code for this sample and I also got the help from Juan and Juarez. So they both did some polishing on some stuff here. So as you guys can see, we now have a, let's say, a funnier level design. So it's quite fun to play with like already with 5 friends it's already cool. So but as I said, we tested with 64, it's all good. um, and Juarez did some cleaning on the code, but he didn't change anything in terms of how we implemented the things. So I want to comment on how we did the last parts of this. So let me list here for you what is actually that we're gonna comment on in today's video. So let me see if I can the easiest way for me to share this. So I already commented on the level design that was done by Juan. So we'll have a couple of different obstacle types here. So these are just static things that you can climb, and these spheres are dynamic um, bodies. So they're just simulated with physics here, so they're quite annoying to go through. Then we have these treadmills that so that of course, as you expect, they push you either forward or backwards. So we have different ones here that will make the thing funnier at the at the end of the thing. So a few gaps that you might need to push these dynamic boxes here, so you can actually pass through the gap. And last, this final thing is like it's the goal. You have to reach this part of the level, and I'll explain how that was implemented. So how we detect the winning condition. So we have a cool level design, but let's start with something else. So I will start by commenting on how this was modified to be multiplayer. So since we saw it last time, I mean, run it locally directly from here. Um, so let me, okay. So starting from here, you guys, from Quantum, you can set up the local players for test here, and you remember that we added like the entity prototype for the character that you're gonna play with. So to play this online in Quantum, you pretty much load this scene, like the game scene, while in a Photon Quantum online room, and then the game will start in multiplayer using the plugin, and it will work. It will command all the other to start as well, and so on. But because we modified the implementation of runtime player, so we expect any player to connect to actually send his choice of his prefab to play with, his entity prototype to play with. So we have to make sure that when running from the menu scene, that also happens. So in the standard demo menu scene from Quantum, we use this custom callbacks script that already does that for you. So it reacts to when the game starts by sending data for the local player. So the only thing we had to do is we had to make sure that would fill in the data for runtime player when we're sending this. So something else I'm going to comment, we also added a nickname to the runtime player, so we could use like a single data path for showing like the name of the character, both on top of the character, so you see who you're close to you and so on, but also because we're going to show how we did the list of winners of the game, so that also uses this information here. But anyway, most important in this case is the entity prototype, the asset ref for that. So the easiest way to do that is I just added an asset ref here to the script itself. So from Unity, what I do is, I just drag and dropped here the reference to the quantum assets that is the Fall Girl character entity prototype. So that was the cheap and dirty, easiest way to do it here. So when you join the game and when the game starts, you just send, yeah, I'm playing with the entity prototype, here it is. And one quick note here is that this game accepts late joins. So if there's a game already running and someone else connects to the same room, they would start Quantum. And then the interesting thing is that when you late join on a game in Quantum, you would still have on game start called, but because you're going to be waiting for a snapshot to be transferred to you automatically by Quantum, you have this condition that game is paused. So in the default sample, we just do not send player when you're late joining, because it might actually be a reconnect, so maybe you don't want to send this again and so on. But in my case, what I did is in late joins and reconnects, you also receive this extra callback here called on game resync. And what I did is, yeah, I just send the local player again anyway. I could have just commented this line here, but I just wanted to demonstrate that this is also called when you late join or reconnect to a game. So that's it. So this is the only thing that I needed to do to make sure the game would run multiplayer online. So it's actually not any change in the simulation or in the gameplay scene. It's just to make sure that the initial callback that was sending runtime player, because we modified runtime player, so it will work properly. Because if we hadn't modified runtime player, there's actually nothing to be done. It would just work right away. Anyway, so this is it for making sure it runs multiplayer. So the game is running multiplayer fine. You guys can all download the build and just play, so you guys know it works, and you're all familiar with Quantum, so you've done this countless times before, so that's how it is. So nothing really to change in terms of the simulation, it just works. So a couple of extra things I did. So two important things we have now, which is if you fall, I wanted to make sure that you can still play. So the idea is that you are going to be respawning from the same location as before. So for that, pretty much what we do is from the simulation we detect the y-axis you are, and you see the level is a bit flat. So we didn't have to add like a killing floor set of triggers or things like that we could have done. So it's pretty much if you go below the y 0, yeah, you died, you fell, so you respawn back. And the other interesting thing about it is the original code that you guys saw from the last two videos didn't have anything about being grounded or not. So you could actually infinitely jump. So you could cheat and just go flying towards the target. But of course, I wanted to fix that, and I just didn't mention it yet in the first two videos, because I just wanted to focus on what was being built. So to fix for that, so let me comment here on the respawn and on the grounded, because they're both part of the code here. So if you see, this is our same movement system as before, that's based on that filter struct that we apply force, impulse, then we compute drag, same way as before, so nothing changed here. And we're looking at the direction we're moving to, unless you're not saying we should move, so we don't change rotation in that case. The physics engine itself is not going to touch the rotation, as since the first video we made sure these entities would have rotation freeze set. One thing, what is added? Added an asset to represent a few configuration options, so we don't have any hard-coded numbers anymore. So this represents the height at which you die. So pretty much when you get below that, so not pretty much, I mean, when you get below that, you're just respawning. So spawning is so when you send your runtime player data, we initialize your entity, but we reuse this spawn method that pretty much sets your position, resets your velocity, and that's it. You're ready to go again. So that's what happened when I demonstrated there. But for the grounded state, let me explain how I did it here. So first thing, ideally, when doing grounded, state from with physics engine, what you should ideally do is you set the grounded state before the physics engine runs, then you run the physics engine, and if you have a collision that comes from below, or if you're using a KCC, a kinematic character controller, you're going to have that computed for you. But it runs from the physics in that case, in this case here, because it's a physics body. So ideally you'd set this to false from a system that runs before the physics engine, then the physics engine runs, and a callback is going to maybe, I'm going to show the code, but it would set this as true if you have a collision below you. But in this case, I just chose to reset the grounded state at the end of the simulation frame. This means that we don't have this information actually correctly from the view, but that was not strictly necessary for what I'm doing right now, although it would be cool, for example, to not run the animation at all if you're not grounded. If you're falling, you would have the grounded false, so you would not animate the walking animation, even if you're doing air control of the character. But it's in the end, it's just setting a system to run before physics and then applying this from the callback, so we would have this state preserved for the view. But for what I needed here, this is not really the case, because here's how I do. I set grounded to false at the end of the frame. Then on the next frame, when physics compute, if we have a collision, and that's the thing. So if there's a collision going on, so I just subscribe to the 3D on collision signal. So what I do is I check the angle between the global up vector and the normal of the collision where we're colliding with here. And what I check is, okay, if this angle is below 30 degrees, so I consider myself to be grounded. So you could narrow this angle and make it something else, but pretty much what I wanted to see, if I'm above something, so the normal of the collision points up somehow or close to up, I can jump. So I check if I have the fall girl component. If I do, I set grounded to true. So that's done on the physics engine. And because our movement system, the rest of the stuff here is not related to grounded, it is related to the treadmills that I'm going to explain later. So this is about the grounded state. So if I'm grounded, then I will, later when the movement system runs, see that we added this test here. So to actually be able to jump, you have to have just pressed the jump button, and you must be grounded. If you're not grounded, you're not going to be able to do this. So that's pretty much it. So nothing complicated here. So the jump impulse is the same as before. Nothing changed here. So that's it for grounded. So reviewing here, if you want to do this the best way thing is set as grounded false before physics engine runs, compute grounded as I did on the physics engine for a physics body based guy like this, a girl like this, or if it's a KCC, you have that state already from automatically. But in this case, it would be done from the physics engine callback. Then all your systems, but also the view, will have the updated information about the grounded state. In this case here, it works the same, but we'll lose the information for the view. So the view doesn't know about it, but yeah, we can fix it later. Okay, cool. Next. So you see that we implemented this, and Juan added these nice treadmills that if you go over them, they're gonna push you in the direction they're, let's say, rotating here or scrolling here. So the visual effect for this is super easy to do. You guys know how to do this. You just scroll the UV coordinates of the material of this object. So I'm not going to explain that. There are so many tutorials on YouTube showing how to do that on Unity. So that's not the thing. The thing is, how do we make this actually apply a movement to the characters? So this is how this is done. So let me explain. So this is just a regular quantum static collider. There's no trigger, nothing else going on here. It's just the floor, the normal collider. But what we do is, if you see here the script for it, we add we drag and drop here in a quantum custom asset So this is a lot here that you can have on the data for this particular static collider. So this is going to be a custom asset that I'm going to explain. I'm going to show the code for, but this custom asset just has a 2D vector. It could be a 3D vector, right? So we'll probably modify this to be a 3D vector if you want to do inclined treadmills as well. But this is enough for now. So it has this property called force field. It's just a 2D vector. So you say the speed at which this modifies the position of the character, and that's it. So how does the code looks like to make this work? So the way it works is from the physics collision callback, the same one that we had here for the grounded states, what we check is, okay, if this is a collision with a static collider, and the static collider has a link to a custom asset, let's get this right here. So what I do in this case, I'm going to modify directly the transform 2D. I'm going to explain what the transform 3D. I'm going to explain this why later. But first, what we do is we get the information about the asset, which is what we drag and drop there, and we actually get the instance of the asset. And what I do is, okay, this is going to be the movement. It's the force field of the asset the other time. So as long as I'm on top of that floor, I'm going to be moved by that speed every time. So if I jump, then the floor treadmill has no effect over me because I'm not touching anymore. But as soon as I'm in contact with it, this is going to be constantly applied to me. So I could have done it with a force or by modifying the velocity of the character. I didn't want to actually modify the velocity, so these are not very fast. So these are very small movements. I wanted to. The reason why I directly apply this to the transform is because I don't want this to affect the actual animation. So because I went very cheap here, and the animation is driven by the xz velocity of the physics body of the character, I didn't want the treadmill to affect this velocity. I want you to be on top of the treadmill and not, you don't have physics velocity, you're kind of standing still, but this is directly changing your transform, and this is a cool thing. You can do this with quantum, so you can treat a dynamic body also as somehow like a kinematic, so you can slightly move the position. Just don't do this too much, because of course you're going to get a few glitches, but assuming that these velocities are not going to be super fast, this is quite a cool way to do, because the physics engine will still run without breaking, and you will push the objects apart, and we'll just combine these two effects. So this is a cool, simple, very cheap, and very easy, and it still looks good. I'll try to go to that way in the video here, so we'll see how it looks like. So that's how we apply this force field thing. So that's it. Nothing really complicated to make that work. And last but not least, we added some UI for Hole 1, and also we have a winning condition. So first I'm going to explain how the winning condition is computed. It's the simplest of them. So it's a trigger. So what we have here, so this winning floor, if we get here, so the top one. So this is just a quantum static collider set as a trigger. So this is the only trigger we have. We don't have any complex setups for different traps and other things. We're thinking about those, but for now, this is it. We have treadmills, we have these rotating things, we have dynamic bodies around, and these different fixed platforms for you to run through, but we don't have anything super complicated. So that's the only trigger, and the way it works is if you touch the trigger, you won. You got to the end. And what we do is, we check if what touched this trigger is a fall girl. If it is, so we added this list of winners. So let me show that here. So on the DSL, we added to the global properties of the frame, we added a dynamic list, a Quantum 2 dynamic list called winners, and it's a list of player refs. Who are the players who won the game? And the cool thing is that this is going to be 100% accurate in order. So the first guy to hit the trigger is going to be the first guy to win. He's going to be on position 0 on this list. The second guy is the second, and so on. 100% accurate. So that's what we do. So we resolve the list from Quantum. We add the player who touched as I mean player who controls this fall girl. We add him as a winner and we destroy the character because we don't need the character anymore. You just won. That's it from the Quantum side. We didn't even did any event yet, anything like that. So that's it for the winning condition. On the Unity side, what we do is you can see on from the game tab here that on the right we have this very simple UI with a list of winners. So let me see if I can show that. So that's going to be here in UI winners. So there is a script called winners UI. So let's make sure this is open from the right Unity the Rider instance. And what this thing does is it checks for the list of winners. And yeah, this is, I'm not optimizing this, so I'm just computing strings here for now. This is just for the demo. So that's it. If you have a winners, we set who won, one per line, and that's it. So super simple. Of course, you could optimize this, but this is not the scope of this video or the demo. So it's not optimizations on the Unity VO side. So of course, you guys know how to do that much better than me. Well, I also know how to do this better, but this is just a quick and dirty sample on how to achieve this kind of gameplay. So this is it for the UI. We also added, you guys probably saw, so we added text on top of the character, but this is quite a simple Unity trick to do the health bars and things that are in the 2D canvas, but they go on top of characters, so nothing really complicated here. So let's see if I can demonstrate these tricks, these obstacles by playing the game. I suck at playing this game, by the way, so I'm gonna die a lot, I guess. So these are just static colliders. So if we fall here, we die, we respawn. I'm trying not to die. So let's just go through here. And yeah, you can jump on top of this ball, these spheres. I think you can. Let me show how this thing drags me. Yo, then it broke. Well, what happened here? Let's see if it works on the next one. I made something wrong here. Maybe that one is broken. I don't know why. Yeah, it worked here. Okay, have to fix that. I don't know why it broke. I think the size of it is too small, and maybe that was just the view. That was a mistake by Juan when he set the sizes. I'll check later. I just don't want to stop and investigate this right now. So let's go here. I'm not gonna risk being touched by that thing. Let's see if it works. Yeah, not risking doing that. Oops, it touched me. So take a look at the treadmill here. So whoa, that's not easy. I think jumping I can actually escape. Yes, I can. But let's let it carry me, and then let's see if I almost died. Cool. Go here and let's see if we can push those boxes. Not super sure if I'm gonna be able to win, but let's see. We put it here, otherwise we will just get trapped. So let's see if I'm actually able. Wow, that was easy. So let's be careful here. I've seen a lot of people make mistakes here. Not sure, maybe I can actually pass through. Oh yes, I did. Now that this way. Oh no. I'm not gonna go again. You guys got the point, right? So that's it. So feel free to ask anything in the comments on this video or in our Discord channels. This is going to be available, it's going to be made available today for you guys through the usual documentation website. See you. Thanks.